'Cause it's cold out there and you know it. Virus won't help you escape. 'Cause it's cold out there. 'Cause it's cold out there. 'Cause it's cold out there and you know it.
Hey everyone, welcome to the newest episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. Today's guest is an indie dance artist from the UK with a brand new single called NYC to CDG. I actually found it on Spotify's Fresh Finds playlist and I can't stop listening to it. Before we get the episode started, please make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And on that note, please welcome Khazali. Awesome. Well, I'm sitting here with Salim Khazali. Thanks for joining me for an episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. I found your music on Spotify's Fresh Finds playlist. Your new song, NYC to CDG, was added to that playlist very recently. It came out February 17th. It's a great dance track. As soon as I heard it, like I heard the first 2 seconds, so I was like, okay, like this is so sick. Because even when I listen to, I'm like going to like listen to other artists, I'll be kind of quick to to skip if I need to find somebody, quickly. And within the first 2 seconds, I was like, this guy is on something. So really, my first question is, what was your reaction when you first found out that your new song, NYC to CDG, was added to Spotify's Fresh Finds playlist?
It was surreal because my track. So I released a track with my label last year. That was like the first track I released with them, and I wasn't signed to the label at the time. It was kind of like they have Kitsune Music. They have like a series that they will like, they're committed to like releasing like a new track every, like 3 tracks a week every week from like unsigned artists. So from releasing that track, that one ended up on Fresh Finds, like New Music Friday, alt pop, like indie something. So when that happened, I was like, okay, this is really cool, but like I'm not gonna like count on it happening like every time I release a track, because it's just really quite lucky, and like, why my track out of all the amazing tracks that come out on like there's so much great music out there. So when it happened the second time, it kind of felt like a really nice like stamp of approval, and like kind of an indication that I'm onto something that like very pure and something very me, and that clearly resonates. And then the fact that they put it like right at the top of the playlist as well, that kind of felt very like, oh wow, because like I always like I love Spotify playlists. Like it's how I find most of the new music I listen to. So just being right there on Fresh Finds, like a playlist I check every single week just to like see what's being tipped is it's a great feeling.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Like, and it was the first track. I was pretty pumped when you said you were down to do the podcast, because I'm like, I got him before anyone else. Like, this dude's about to blow up, and I just snatched him. So thank you again for coming on, and I really do want to talk about this song because it is so good. What was kind of the writing and the recording process of it? When I was researching you, I saw that you turned to dream journals to be inspired by new songs. So was there a certain dream that really resonated with you for this song?
So at the time of writing like the poems that would become the lyrics to NYC to CDG, like I was in quite a tough place. Like I'd like left London to go to this like really small seaside town, which was really lovely, that had like beaches and white sands and stuff, and I was just like, oh and I was just like, why am I not like, why haven't I found myself, or like, why am I like, I literally left London like to find myself and to run away from my anxiety. And then I sort of realized that you can't really do that. Like you can't, the location doesn't change like how what you're going through inside. And like just before I started writing that track and You'll Be the One, like I'd been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. So it's quite a tough time, like quite like a information overload. So I was dreaming quite a bit about going somewhere, like booking a flight. And like there was this really vivid one where I like saw the screen like in the dream, like of Skyscanner, and I'd like typed in NYC to CDG. So obviously in my dreams I'd been like, you know, traveling quite a bit if I needed to go from New York to Paris. So that's how the words came to be. In terms of like the songwriting process, I'd met Brian, who's like the producer, who composed the track and wrote it with me, and did the bulk of the production. And when he sent me those chords, it kind of called to material. How do I put it? The lyrics that I wrote in that poem kind of found a home really quickly, because they were in a different order. But I was flipping through the pages while I was like jamming on Logic, and those words just sort of like, it's almost like jumped onto the song. It's like, okay, this is where those words belong, because that's how most of my lyrics like are. Like they're written way before a session in a dream journal usually, or they're like notes that I've made from a dream. I think dreams are just like we're the most us when we dream. I truly believe that.
Wow, that's so interesting. I don't know if I've interviewed anybody yet who uses a dream journal or their dreams to really get a song going. Have you ever tried to write without that, and was it not very successful?
Well, I like them because they're so vivid, you know. And I have tried it. It's not. I don't think that it's something that I will always need to do, but it's definitely an inspiration point. And then it's like when you do a mind map, and it's not like the end result of your idea is going to be like the first thing you wrote on the mind map, but for me, it's like a very comfortable place to start. Yeah, I've tried a lot of songwriting techniques, especially like the main ones that you find in songwriting books, and they just don't work for me, which is cool. Like I used to be quite scared about that, but then I was like, there's nothing wrong with writing from your dream journals.
Not at all. I do think that when people start out doing music, I know for me, it took me a long time to feel comfortable with my own voice, actually, and also just the way I want to write songs, because you feel like maybe subconsciously you're supposed to do it a certain way, like everyone has the professional way to do it, and that's just not the case. You just have to lean into what feels most natural for you.
Yeah, and you managed to break out of that, right?
Yeah, I think so. You really, I don't know about you. For me personally, it really started with one song, which ended up becoming the first thing I ever released under that was only me. And once I had that moment, I was like, oh, this feels true to me. It doesn't feel like I'm copying someone. And then you just hold on to that feeling and ride it as long as you can. Was there something like that for you?
Yeah. There was definitely that moment with Ode to Mark, which is like the first track that I put up on Spotify with my collective Slow Dance. And that was a moment where I had to bite the bullet. I don't know if you've ever experienced that feeling of you're like, there isn't gonna be a point where the song's perfect, but in order to show at least show my friends and show the world who I am musically, I'd have to put something up, and as long as I'm happy with it, then and this was just written on there was a MacBook balancing on a fireplace and my voice notes, and that's the vocal take I use.
Really? The vocals are
still
just
really proud
from
of that.
voice memos?
Yeah, for Ode to Mark. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
that song
The
sounds
first
great,
track.
dude.
Oh, you've listened
Yeah,
to
yeah.
it.
I listen to all your stuff on Spotify. It's great.
Oh, I would. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's really nice of you.
It's cool to see the progression because I do think Ode to Mark, while it does, I mean, to me it sounds pretty much on par with the rest. I can see that progression where each song sonically it gets a little tighter and the vibe seems to get a little more um refined. Like you keep digging deeper into what kind of artist you want to be.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's definitely happening, especially right now. Like I'm really starting to hone in on like I don't want to have a sound if that makes sense. Like because that's what I really like about my inspirations. Like I like the fact that Metronomy can like flip between like indie rock and disco, and like Little Dragon can be really sort of ethereal and then also really like electro dancey, and I really like that about them. But they always have their thing within all of their variations. So that's what I kind of want to do. So like you'll see in the music that I release over the next few months, in the next couple of years, there will be kind of a dance around electronic indie tronica. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Is that's not even a genre? Indie electronic pop. There'll be like a sort of a tiptoe through different disciplines within such a broad genre, and I really really am excited about that. Um, I know it's it scares some people when musicians do that because you don't know what to expect with but I mean I've always appreciated that about my favorite acts. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think nowadays we're only going to see more of that anyway. People doing whatever they want to do and not really feeling compelled to stick to a certain genre because in the age of the internet, you can listen to literally anything that's pretty much ever been recorded. So your inspirations can come
Yeah,
from anywhere, and it doesn't have to even come from music itself. I love One O Tricks Point Never, and I've been really getting into him. And there's a whole album where I think it's like my favorite called Replica, and he just took a bunch of samples from like commercials that he heard on TV and
yeah,
created something that's incredible, like a great dance album. And I think what is really cool is we're gonna see more and more people um, releasing music all the time that isn't exactly um, uh, sticking to a certain
yeah,
genre, but because it comes from one person or a collective, that it has a certain sound. You know what I mean? And I think even the way we
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about this will eventually be not outdated, but it'll be kind of like a relic of the time because eventually
yeah,
everyone's just going to do what they want and there's no sound that you have or you go for. It just happens because you do
yeah.
what you love.
That's so true. That's so true. That's really true. And I think in a way, some of the people that have been doing it for the like last, I mean, it's been sort of coming on for like about. I'm not like a music historian. I don't claim to be. Just from my music listening experience, like for the last 10 years, probably. Like there are artists on the fringe of popularity that sort of um, have been just experimenting, completely doing whatever they want, whenever they want, you know. And I think the only time that I wouldn't want to do that is probably going to be when I release my debut album, which I don't know when it's going to come out, or like, you know, what shape it will take. And I think that's fine to say. Like I don't know, um, but I think that I will really honor like the album format, even though you know we live in a digital sort of age. I really want to honor the idea that the album will be something from beginning to end that feels like the same shape.
Yeah, I totally
But with
agree.
my EPs, I just don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I
I want to give tastes.
exactly. You don't need to be, you don't need to withhold these things. I just released a song called Heaven Sent, and I did not really like worry too much about the fact that maybe it's a little bit moodier than the other songs I've put out, because I know some people are going to appreciate that more. And even if it's like
Yeah.
nerve-wracking for me to put it out and worry like what people will think, there's going to be someone who latches onto that a little bit more than maybe some of the other ones. And to deny somebody that is, I don't want to say selfish, but it's just like, you don't need to do that, you know? Like, people will appreciate it if you give them the chance.
Yeah, that's exactly it. How do you distract yourself from like what other people think?
That's a good question. Um,
I didn't mean to like become
no,
the
no, I
interviewer.
like having it be a conversation, you know? That's what this is supposed to be. I don't want it to be, you know, as much as I want to learn about you, I do think that what's cool about this podcast, hopefully, is that people can listen to it and be part of a greater conversation. And that
Yeah,
is a good question. I think maybe it's almost like trying to distract myself doesn't really work either. I think it's more of, you just have to focus on the actual work of it and focus on check in with yourself constantly about, how am I feeling about this? Do I feel
yeah,
stagnant? Okay, why do I feel stagnant? Maybe it's because I haven't released something in a while. I'm like, well, okay, if I want to release something, what would it be? Well, maybe this makes me feel a little nervous and I don't want to put it out. It's like, well, then check in with yourself there. Why are you nervous? So I think it's just a lot of that. I think
yeah,
it's a lot of really gauging my own thoughts and feelings on something and not judging them, because the world is already judgmental, and you just have to be confident in yourself that what you're doing is the right move. What about you?
I have a complete. First of all, I want to say that is amazing. Like, that's very introspective, and definitely something I'm trying to take on. Like, those questions, like a series of questions you ask yourself, is like, sounds like something very, like, a great logical way to get through those feelings. And to answer your question, slash my question, is I have like a strict like horse blinder policy on like stats. So I don't look at any stats in
Good
terms of
call.
like streaming or like things or views, anything like that. Um, I I take everything with a pinch of salt, because it's not like got to a stage yet where like there's any hate or anything, but like there are definitely I've noticed there's starting to be people like are saying their opinions on things on certain like comment threads and on ads.
Right.
So you got weird, like bit of weird, like it's not like a huge degree. I'm not like claiming to be like, oh my god, there's so much like comment. I'm getting so many comments because I'm not like, you know, I'm still lifting off,
But you're getting to the point where
yeah,
people who don't know you are
yeah, especially like journalists.
oh,
Like,
interesting.
so like, yeah, like there'll be a moment where I'm reading a feature slash review of the track, which has happened like a couple times for the past couple singles, and just like have to like brace myself that, okay, whatever the next sentence says, like, you know, it's one person's opinion and you liked the track before it came out, so you gotta stay true to that. And yeah, so just I think those two things. Don't look at any numbers because they don't mean anything, and take everything with a pinch of salt.
Those are
Like with it's
great great advice there. I think that's interesting. I have yet to had my own music reviewed by anyone or talked really about in that way. I know what you mean with the ads, like Instagram ads, and some random dude
Yeah,
is
yeah.
just like, this sounds like blah blah blah, and you're like, whatever. But
Yeah.
you're just I was
Oh,
gonna say
sorry.
you're right about you like the song before you release it. Why should you change your opinion
Yeah.
just because some random dude
Yeah, yeah,
said
yeah.
something online about it after you released it?
Yeah. and also that they're allowed to not like it as
Mhm.
well is a great reminder. Like it's a great thing to like just take it out of. Like someone commented on "You'll Be the One." They were like, "Ugh," like they literally that was all their whole comment, and I was like, okay, I actually respect that because I mean I'm sure I've heard a song and felt that as well. So like, why can't it happen with mine? So
Yeah, that's true. I mean, hey, fuck that guy though. Like, he's just wrong. Like, I mean, not, music is subjective, but I don't get people who like feel like putting out any kind of negativity. You know what I mean? I just don't
yeah,
get it.
yeah, I've never understood that. I mean, I'm sure I've written something horrible on Twitter when I was like 13 or 14, but
Yeah, yeah, true. Back in the day, 13 and 14, we were little monsters. So I was reading about the slow dance collective that you're a part of. I'd love to learn a little bit more about that, what it is, what you guys do, and any advice you would have for artists who are looking for a creative community to be a part of.
yeah, that's a good question. I think when it comes to slow dance, that was something that happened super organically. Like a few of my friends at sixth form, which is the equivalent to high school. Yeah, high school. Basically, I think the 2 years before university /
Okay.
college. So we were in that stage of learning, and we were all sort of into the arts in some way. So we like all put our minds together and we made a magazine called Xena. It was really cool. Like we printed it. We printed limited runs. We would sell it for like £1, like to people, and it caught on quite well. So we wanted to like do a party because sort of we all knew someone who was in a band that made music or made music ourselves. So we threw a party, but the school didn't let us use the name of the magazine to throw the party because it had already now become associated with the
Oh,
school.
well.
And the school had quite like a reputation to upkeep in London, so we had to change the name. So like Marco, who's now like one of the main figureheads of slow dance, and he's also in the band Sorry. I don't know if you've heard of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, I have. And a guest on this show, I asked him who he was listening to at the moment, and he was like, "There's this duo from England called Sorry, and they're really sick."
Yes, yeah. So they're now like a larger band. They started off as duo. So Asher and Louis from Sorry were playing at the first slow dance as well. Like they're one of our friends, one of our in our circle, I'd say. So Marco was like, why don't we call it slow dance? It'll be like, it'll be kind of a nice like turning the phrase on its head. Like because like the slow dance happens at the end of the night, and one of the bits of thinking behind it was that like we all kind of liked like electronic music, but it was at a slower pace than what was in the mainstream at the time. So it's like slow dance music.
Oh, I got you.
So but it's funny because like you just think it was a slow dance. So it was kind of like funny and like kind of a dry humor. I don't know if I'd call it funny, but we did like we made a set list of like artists that we knew. So Sorry were there. They were called Fish at the time. I did a set. Marco did a set, and then the party just continued. It was just parties throughout those 2 years. And then it became something more. So like Marco thought, why don't we start releasing things? Like why don't we start releasing people's songs? Like they're part of the collective. So why don't we have compilations or something? So in 2016, there was the first compilation. That's when I released Ode to Mark. Because Marco was like, is there anything you want to release? It doesn't matter if it's finished or not. Just like, it'd be cool to have one of your songs on it. By that time I was in Falmouth, the seaside town that I spoke about earlier, and I was like, yeah, okay, Here you go. You're gonna need to master it though. I don't know anything about that.
Were you nervous at all
And
to
then
put something on, like have your first release on a compilation?
I was nervous. I was nervous because like by that time I was at uni for like a year and a half, and like slow dance was making its name in London, like in the underground for sure. Like slow dance was becoming a name. Like so, I was like, that's it. Felt like a lot of pressure, and I felt a bit detached from it because I hadn't been involved for like a year and a half, and so much had happened. So in a way, it felt like a nice way to reconnect. Um, if that makes sense. Like obviously, like that kind of family never like you never don't feel part of it. Like I'll always be a part of slow dance. But at the time, because of where I was, like I was detached from London. I'd almost thought, oh, I'm actually kind of chuffed at this because I was starting to think you guys would forget about me. So it felt nice. It was like a nice thing.
That's awesome. I would think that it would be really cool being part of such a big community where everyone is releasing things in a solo fashion, but you can come together to create something even bigger
Yeah,
on something like a
yeah,
compilation album or a a Zine. That's really cool that you guys had your own
yeah.
magazine too.
I think to answer your other question as well about like if anyone feels like they don't have a creative family of sorts is, pardon me,
You're good.
is too much smoothie. Um, is there it like no one is going to make that for you. Like we just went, okay, there isn't something like slow dance or like what we want to do, so let's just do it. Let's throw a party. And there's like that's probably easier said than done like right now because you can't throw a party. But I've seen so many cool things done on Zoom. Like there's this like there's this like there's this like Zoom I've heard about for like women in music, and they meet up on Zoom. Um, and there's like been so many like quarantine club nights, like other than club quarantine, there's been like really cool like just start like do an event. Don't worry about how many people turn up to the first event, and just you'll know your creative tribe, like you'll know who they are, but you just have to organize yourself into something. Just give it a name, don't worry about it, and let's go with it. Like who knew like that slow dance would still be releasing compilations up until this day. um like I know Marco didn't know that, but like he had a drive, and he kept us all like creating, if that makes sense. um and there's Darius, Isabel, Maddie, who like helped to run it, like in terms of like the managerial side of it. And then like obviously all of us artists in slow dance. There's also like visual artists as well. Like there's, just I think also if you're one of those people that like you can just see all the creative people around you, just go with it. Be like, hey, look, there's this thing I'm starting. They're gonna want to be part of it, for sure. I think it just takes that first person.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, just going for it. And I think, not everyone has a fully formed idea of what something is
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be. Like, there's probably no way that the guy who you said is like the figurehead of slow dance, there's probably no way he knew what it would become 4 or 5 years down
yeah,
the
yeah,
line. But he had a feeling, like a gut feeling, and just went for it and followed it. I mean, I didn't know how long I'd be doing this podcast or what it would be after
yeah,
six
yeah,
months. And now it's become that's his own thing, and who knows what it'll be a year down the line. So even if you only have kind of a what's the word, not totally refined idea, but you feel
yeah.
passionate about it, you really should go for it because you don't know where it's going to lead you.
Exactly. I completely agree with you. It's just that even if you have a sketch, just run with it. And it's the same thing for music making as well. Like I think that one thing that I really like appreciate about myself is the fact that I'm not really fussed about things sounding perfect. Like I really really don't mind. Like and I see a lot of people around me that are super super super, you know, focused on end results. And I think like, obviously it happens to all of us, but like I've noticed that I can override that, and I would really recommend, you know, to anyone that makes music, just like, you know, just make stuff. Like you're gonna write like 99. Can I swear?
Oh yeah, totally.
You're gonna write 99 shit songs for like the gold one. That's like song 100.
Yeah.
I feel like I just reworked that that Lady Gaga quote about 100 people being in the room with you.
Wasn't
And
that
not
about
seeing your
Thomas
potential.
Edison? He found out how to make like 295 ways to not make a light bulb or something.
Yeah, I think there's been different versions of it throughout. But yeah, no, I think the point is always like on point. It's like you gotta stop worrying about how things being perfect, because you're gonna release it and then someone is gonna comment ugh on it.
Yeah, no matter
So-
what.
So
yeah, I totally agree. You just have to you have to find your own, you know, happiness in it, and you have to be content with what you can do, and know that even if you can't quite reach what you want right now, to have faith that if you continue to work hard and follow your own gut, that you will get to that point that you want to be at. And that's going to take us over to the last 5 here, where I'm just going to ask you 5 quick questions, and then we'll be done.
okay.
So,
This has been so fun so far.
hey
by
man,
the way. It's been felt like a really really lovely
oh
conversation.
well, thank you for saying that. I do really appreciate when the guests that I interview enjoy it, because I don't want this to feel like, you know, question answer. I want it to feel like a back and forth where the listeners can also you know, just enjoy where the conversation goes and maybe get something out of it as well. I'm always learning from people like you, from guests that I interview, and you know, I don't want it to be this strict feeling thing. I want it to feel like a conversation. So thank you for saying that.
That's okay.
And question number 1 is going to be, in the studio or playing live, which do you like more? Live. Are you saying that because we're in lockdown, or would you have said that before that?
I would have said that before that. Like all my live experience has just always touched me in such a crazy way. Like in like sort of the different stages of my self that I've reached right now. Like before, when I was doing like experimental electronic, up until when I was in my band, up until now, which I haven't had a chance to perform my stuff live, which I'm really excited about doing. But there's something about doing something live. I think it's why we all do it.
It's certainly an electrifying feeling. I do love being in the studio, because any moment I can create something new that feels like my new favorite song. But having not played live in a long time, and having only played my own songs personally live a couple of times, that feeling is pretty much unmatched anywhere else.
Yeah, completely.
Question number 2 is, what do you think is a perfect album front to back?
Perfect album front to back. Oh my god, I'm gonna sweat. The English Riviera by Metronomy.
You're the second person to say that in the last like 5 episodes too. That's crazy.
It's because they're bloody amazing.
Are they from England?
So I think they're from originally Torquay, which is like in Cornwall or near Cornwall. It's in Devon, I think.
Okay.
My
Interesting,
geography
'cause
isn't amazing, but it's by the sea. It's like not too far from where I escaped to.
Well, maybe you were getting in touch with your metronomy side. I only know the look. I don't know the rest of the songs on that album, but I guess I'll have to listen to it.
I really recommend Everything Goes My Way from the album.
Okay, cool. I mean, you're the second person to give it a listen or to give it a shout out. So now I'm gonna have to give it a listen, probably like right when we're done.
I'd love to know yours as well. Your favorite, your
My
top.
perfect album. Well, I'm gonna give my previous On That Note guest a shout out, Delta Dagger, because he has a podcast called Bands, Beers, and Buzzwords, and he had me on the show. And the whole point of the show is to basically drink and talk about your favorite album. And
Oh,
he does
nice.
it in like he like quizzes you on trivia about the album. It's a whole really fun thing. Everybody should go check it out. But I picked In Rainbows by Radiohead. That is my favorite album of all time. I think it's perfect
In
front to
Rainbows.
back. Yeah. If you haven't listened to it, I totally recommend it. Do you listen to Radiohead at all?
I haven't heard any. So I will
Wow.
listen to. I know that's a. I was almost like gonna be ashamed to say that, but
No. That's just exciting for me to know that
Yeah.
you haven't really
I'm gonna
dived
write it.
into it.
Gonna write it on a sticky note right now.
Yeah, do it. I would say In Rainbows is the place to start for me. I mean, I just love that album, and I think it's probably more accessible for like a younger generation like us. I think that one really gravitates to 20 somethings,
Yeah.
but you really can't go wrong with any of their stuff except for the first album. Don't really worry about Pablo Honey. But yeah, I would say start with In Rainbows, and if you really dig that, then maybe try OK Computer, Kid A. But yeah, I would say In Rainbows is the great one to start with.
Okay. I've got a Tube Journey coming up. I'll listen to it.
Nice. And I'll check out Metronomy. What's the album called? The
The
English
English
Riviera?
Riviera.
Okay, cool. I'll listen to it right after this. Question number 3 is, who's your dream artist or producer to work with?
This is a big question. Whew. I would say Jamie XX.
Ooh, yeah, good choice. I didn't think of him, but I totally see that. I never really listened to the album that was huge that he did, like the
In Color.
Rainbow. Yeah. I listened to like one or two songs and liked it, but I wasn't really into dance music at the time, and now I've really come around to it, so maybe I need to go back.
I mean, it's amazing. It is amazing. It's amazing.
He said it 3 times. It's amazing. That's how good it is.
Yeah.
When I was thinking of who I thought you would be really good with, there's a couple people that stuck in my head. One is Burial, and I just think have you heard of him?
Oh, Burial. Yeah.
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 I haven't listened to him too much, but I just know the lore about him, and like he's so mysterious, and that one album is like considered like a god tier dance album.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I could totally see your voice over something like that, but also now I'm blanking on who it was. I could see you working with like Toro y Moi. I've got
Oh,
Toro y Moi
really?
up here. Yeah.
I love Rose Quartz. I haven't heard any other song from that album, but I love
Rose
Rose
Quartz
Quartz.
is great. That's on this album, the one
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
behind me. That's my favorite album, but I do really like the one that he put out in 2019 as well. You'd probably like that one. It's called...
I need to catch up with Toro more.
Yeah, he's sick. I interviewed a girl on this show, Salami Rose Joe Lewis. Very interesting name. But she opened for him. She like toured with Toro y Moi and opened with... I was like, that's amazing, because he's one of my favorite people, no doubt.
I'm gonna get into that as well then.
Yeah. See, we learn a lot of new things to listen to on this show.
Yeah.
Question number 4 is, what's on your musical rotation right now?
I'll get my on repeat playlist up
Yeah, do it.
because it changes a lot. But at the moment, I've got some Caroline Polachek.
Oh, yeah.
Rudimental. Uh,
Rudimental. I don't know that.
they are, yeah, they're great. I can send you one of their tracks that I'm listening to at the moment.
Please do. Yeah.
They're like legend, like UK garage legends, like Peggy Goo.
Hmm.
Um, Peggy Goo's.
Sorry, I have to interrupt just because I remembered who I want to do the work with. Too, because I was like, what is it? What is it? I just looked it up. Sampha, of course,
Oh
would
yeah.
be amazing. And I know you talked about him on one of your online interviews. So it's like, of course, Sampha, and also James Blake.
Oh
Those
wow,
would be the two.
that'd be amazing. Imagine a trio with the three of us.
Hey, let's put it out there. We're putting it out there in the universe.
Yeah,
It's happening.
exactly. Attract that.
But
Um,
yeah.
so
Anyways,
yeah,
what you?
Peggy Goo is like another person I'm listening to a lot. Um, she hasn't got that many tracks out, but they're very addictive. She's a Korean DJ, but she also sings on her tracks, which is really cool, in Korean.
Cool. Peggy
Um,
Goo.
yeah, Ash Nico, I love her new album. Connie Constance, Metronomy, obviously Jamie XX, Charlie XCX.
Nice.
I've been listening to a lot of Sophie in light of the recent news.
Yeah.
Sophie had such an impact on my understanding of like what music could be,
Hmm.
from such like from the age where I was starting to develop my own music taste. Sophie kind of popped up into my world and like sort of changed it forever. So it's quite a sore moment right now. But yeah,
Yeah.
and just to linger on that, that's the song "Bip" by Sophie. Just like I will always like, yeah, that will always just be in a special place.
Which song?
"Bip,"
BIP. BIP.
BIPP.
BIP. Yeah, I hate to say there really hasn't been too much Sophie that I've gotten into until, her recent passing. But then I gave her album a
The album,
listen.
yeah, the album's a masterpiece. Yeah,
It is pretty wild. I mean, her sound design was just on a different level. Like she
yeah, yeah,
didn't follow any of the rules,
yeah, yeah. And I would definitely say give the the EP product like a good listen, because it's definitely there was definitely like a departure from that in the album. From like the product. I don't know if it's an EP or a mixtape, but it's on Spotify and YouTube and stuff.
Did it come out after or before
It came
the
out.
album?
It came out in. I think it came out in 2013. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's quite early on in Sophie's trajectory. But yeah, really do listen to product, especially like Lemonade and Bip and Hard. Like they definitely like put Sophie on the map, I feel.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely go check it out. She's one of those people that I didn't realize how built into the fabric of like indie dance music she was.
Yeah,
Like,
almost like an architect.
yeah, and she like had so much a hand with Charlie XCX and Vince Staples even. It's
Yeah,
just crazy like how woven into the fabric she was, and I didn't realize it until recently.
it's never too late to discover someone great.
No,
Yeah,
never too late. That's what's so cool about the age of the internet is you can appreciate all kinds of music from all different eras. And that's going to take me to the last question here, which is, what is your favorite decade of music?
my favorite decade is the 2010s.
I was going to guess that was the case just because you guys have so much dance music influence. And that would probably be my answer too.
I think honestly, one of the best decades of music. I know it's like literally the last one that happened, but so much great music came out, and I would always get so angry when people would say that music isn't that good anymore, because it's like I mean some of the best things came out in the 2010s. It's just undisputable.
I think when people say that, they just like haven't, they have an attitude problem. It's like you should adjust what you're listening to, and like
Yeah.
I think maybe they say that because they only hear like certain songs that get played on the radio that are just beaten to death or repetitive, or maybe they just don't like it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, try to widen your horizons. We live in an age where you can listen to anything and everything, and there's
Yeah.
so much out there that to just blanket sweep,
Yeah.
an entire generation of music makers.
Yeah,
is,
I think it's very popular to say, it's very popular to be anti-pop, but
yeah,
the reason pop music is because it's good, and people like it, and it makes people feel good. And
right.
what's coming out currently is not necessarily bad. It's, you know, there's obviously always going to be terrible music in the charts, but there's a lot of gold as well. And not even just the charts, just like what's coming out and what people are listening to. But I guess it's just not cool for some people. I think some people are focused more on seeming cool than like actually liking good music. But
Exactly. And it's like,
who cares about
you
being
don't
cool?
think that they had shitty songs in the 70s? Like, dude, there were some awful songs back in the day that were huge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just not really like that doesn't really make sense, Like every generation's going to have great things about it and bad things about it. And,
Exactly.
Don't have that kind of perspective, that negative perspective.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
Well, Khazali, thank you for coming on an episode of On That Note. That concludes our time here, but everyone listening needs to go check out your newest single, NYC to CDG. It is on the Spotify Fresh Finds playlist. Congratulations for that. It's a great song. I've been jamming to it so much. I listened to it while I was going to grab a coffee this morning, and it just put a little pep in my step. Awesome. Thank you again for coming on, man. Talking about your creative process and advice for artists looking for a creative community. And yeah, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. First podcast.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
All right, Khazali, I'll talk to you later. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Speak soon.
Thank you again for joining me for another episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. If you haven't yet, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, and you can even leave a comment down below to let me know who you're listening to. On that note, I'll see you guys next time.